GoLoud.
Welcome back to the weekly roast. How's it going, guys? How the hell are you? How are your hearts? And of course, how are your heads? Guys, what's going on? How are you doing? It's good to be here, but it's also bad to be here. Kieran, I nearly hit a cyclist this morning. I woke up, right? Absolutely, I was really tired, okay? 6 a.m, usual Monday start. Woke up feeling tired. Got myself ready. Kissed there and goodbye. Got into the car. And on the way in, I was like, do you know what? I'm actually exhausted here. I'm going to stop and get a coffee. So I went into Butler's and I got myself a coffee. And I was standing in the queue. And next thing, this guy in lycra in a helmet came in and he skipped me. So I just started swinging. No? Any? Terrible. That is just... Joking aside, I did nearly hit a cyclist. So I'm driving through this morning. Okay, that joke is terrible. Driving into the show this morning, in through the Phoenix Park. You can only go like 30 kilometres an hour, right? I get to the roundabout at the Pope's Crossing and a cyclist comes right out in front of me, no lights on, nothing, dressed in completely black. And I didn't nearly hit him. Like, I was able to stop in time because I was going the speed limit. And I nearly hit him anyway. It didn't nearly hit him, but it was very stressful. He goes on. I took a deep breath and I was like, right, don't do anything. But then I'm going through and I just rolled the window down and I just said, sorry, mate. I go, you should probably get yourself some lights because, you know, I nearly hit you there and you're going to get yourself. Bear in mind, it's pitch black this morning at 7 a.m. I was like, you're going to cause an accident or get yourself hit. Like, nobody can see you. And I swear I said it in a very relaxed way. And he just goes, fuck off. More than enough lights over here, you fucking clown. Good stuff. Good stuff. Happy birthday. Happy fucking birthday, mate. I hope you have a great day. I hope your dad picks you up on time and brings you to that ball game he always said he would. Do you know what I mean? I hope you get to play catch down the park afterwards with the new baseball mitt that he got you. Maybe he'll even take you to Chuck E. Cheese for pizza and carry you home on his shoulders. Or maybe you can fall asleep in the back seat of his truck and he'll lift you upstairs and say, night, champ. Because maybe then you won't have that much repressed rage first thing in the morning. I don't know if that's me speaking to him or to me, but it's genuinely. Anyway, that's why it was very unsettling. I thought I was actually being diplomatic by saying, just mate, you might need to get some lights. I'm also in a little bit tetchy form because I brought Bertie out for a walk yesterday after the storm. Hope everybody survived the storm, by the way. I know it touched, like, Dublin was fine for the most part, but I know it really, really affected people around the country. So I hope you're doing well. What I will say is this. I went out for a walk on Friday afternoon once it settled. And one of our neighbours had covered the entire front of their house with sandbags. Come on. Flooding in the Phoenix Park. There hasn't been a flood worth worrying about in the Phoenix Park since the famous Flood v Connors family feud, where they moved a bare knuckle boxing match from Blanche down to the fucking to the Pope's Crossing. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, maybe I'm in bad form. I was walking Bertie for the walk, right? And we're barely 3 minutes outside the house and he does his business. So, grand, take out the bag. Whatever happened, I lifted up the poo. And then it fell out. Because you see, I do this thing, which I know is perverted, or maybe it's just like neurodivergent. I don't know what it is, but I don't like the actual feeling of the touching of the poo. So I usually scoop up a bit of leaves in the bag first to use as a buffer between my mitt and the poo. So I picked up the poo and the poo fell out of the bag because I had too much of a bed of leaves, right? Too much foliage preventing the poo to sit in the bag. So it fell out. So then I went again, but in that time, my baby finger had wandered away into the air and sunk into the poo. Just the worst way to start a walk. It was the worst moment ever. So anyway, I was a little bit depressed. But those two things, by the way, pale in comparison to the true sadness that I'm feeling today. Guys, as always, nestled between my pendulous cans, with the world at his feet and my heart in his hands, there's no poetry in grief, no how or no why, but Kieran is leaving to the milk farm in the sky. It's his last ever show, and we wish him the best. There'll always be a seat on the shelf of my chest. The prodigal child with milk on his chin. We might be losing a producer, but love always wins. So without further ado, there are stories to tell. Goodbye, my old milk boy. For now, it's farewell.
Oh no.
Kieran's leaving, guys. We're absolutely devastated. We cannot let sadness stand in the way of our joy. Today, my friends, it is the roast of annoying, weird, rude, and or ignorant customers. We've all witnessed, experienced, and dare I say, embodied that personality of the annoying customer at some stage in our life. Listen, I'm just going to call it as it is. Lots of the contributions were Willy related. So I've had to trim down the Willies, okay? I've really had to keep the Willies at bay. And there's like this whole podcast was close to devolving into a Willy Willy Bum Bum section. Well, so we've had to really try our hardest to not make it that way. So this is the best and the worst of your customer stories. Of course, if you're a fan of the show, let me know on Instagram at MeganMark. The greatest way that you can thank us if you enjoy the show is to share it with a friend. Oh, and by the way, the reason why it's so devastating that Kieran is leaving today is because today is our 1 year anniversary.
Oh.
1 year of the weekly roast. It's been and continues to be the greatest addition to my life. So I just want to thank you all so much for joining us each week. I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in the flesh at some stage this year and drip feeding you information as it comes over the coming weeks. But my friends, thank you so much for being a part of the weekly roast. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoy my work, if you enjoy my writing, please subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/Mark Megan. Every week there's a new article for you to read or a bonus podcast. Now, let's get into it. The strangest, weirdest, oddest of balls that you've ever encountered. Let's go.
So I used to work in a big retail shop in Dublin city centre, and one day I went into the men's changing rooms and someone had done a big dirty shit on the floor, wiped their arse with the clothing that we had on the shelves and just left us to clean it up.
Oh, good stuff. Straight out of the chaps. Nice one, Kieran. I love the way she says dirty shit as if to suggest there are clean ones. And I mean, I really didn't think we were going to be starting with this level of filth, but like when you're defecating in a dressing room and taking clothes off the rack to wipe yourself, your relationship with H&M and dare I say society has probably ran its course. Like, she expresses dismay that he left afterwards suddenly. Would you expect him to hover around the ill-fitting t-shirts that shrink to the size of a Beanie Baby after one wash? Like, you know, I don't really it's just utterly depraved. When the moment that you're like crouched over in a dressing room using a hoodie, removing the hanger from a hoodie to then wipe your arse, you have to make a solemn promise to yourself never to eat whatever it is you had for breakfast ever again. That's when you make a commitment to changing everything. That's your own personal rock bottom. Snatching a pair of espadrilles and using the soles to wipe your hole. You know, praying to a God that you weren't even aware you believed in, that a staff member doesn't open the curtain as you are crouched down. I don't know. Do you know what I've started doing recently with dressing rooms?
Go on.
Trying on sunglasses. Man, have you ever noticed, like, trying on sunglasses by yourself is the most embarrassing thing in the world? Like, if you ever get, like, you're trying on sunglasses and you put them on, if anybody looks at you trying them on, you're like, oh my God, this is so fucking dehumanizing. Because you're like, who the hell do you think you are? Some sort of supermodel. Why are you making that weird face? And do you ever notice you put a face on when you try on sunglasses as well? You always like move your lips and do this weird. What are you doing?
Ace Ventura style.
Literally, like what? It's the most Irish people. We are too repressive. Our culture is too repressive that it doesn't allow the self-expression required to sort of try on sunglasses by yourself. I need somebody with me if I'm trying on sunglasses, so you can look at them, and then you have to throw on a couple of joke ones as well, just to make it a bit of a gag. Because we can't be earnest enough to try on sunglasses and go, yeah, these actually look good. I'm just going to move my head to this side, to that side. I'm going to change my facial expression. It's mortifying. So yeah, every time I buy sunglasses nowadays, I try them on in the dressing room and or do a dump course. Let's go.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, my dad was a very generous man and would leave a great tip for anyone doing work for him in the house or out for a meal or whatever, but was a nightmare to be with in a cafe or a restaurant or a pub because he insisted on drinking the milk on the table directly from the milk jug. Yes. It got to the stage that my mum was too mortified to come in and out of the car until one of us went back out to her to say it was safe, that the milk had already been drank and she didn't have to witness him doing it. Yeah. Scarred for life.
This is like you staring into your future, Kieran, I'd say. Dad, please. Dad, please, just one day, we beg of you. I'm just thirsty, okay? That's all. There's nothing to worry about. I'm just having a fucking drink of milk. Why is everybody always worrying? I'm just going down for one drink of milk. Dad, please, can we just please one day? It's Sarah's birthday. Can we just please don't do it out of the jug? Dad, please, you're causing it. I'm not causing a fucking scene. You're causing a scene. Get your hands off me. Drinking milk out of the jug. You're a savage. You're a complete and utter, savage. There is no excuse. I've never, by the way, 2 people wrote in with this exact scenario yesterday to say that people were drinking the milk out of the milk jugs in cafes. Preposterous. Absolutely outrageous. No, what do you think about that?
Muck savage.
It's complete muck savage. And with the greatest respect, you caveat this by saying that your dad was generous with his money. He was generous with his actual lips on... I just cannot believe the wrapping of the lips around a jug. I knew a guy growing up in school. This is so bad. And sorry, I can't believe that we're starting the show like this. But so to the sensitive ears, rest assured, it's not all filth. It's not all toilet. But I used to know a guy in school and he'd go into Eddie Rockets. You know the way Eddie Rockets used to have those straws where you'd push the thing down and all the straws would come up. Yeah. He would go in on a Friday afternoon and he'd take all of the straws out and he'd rub them around his genitals.
What?
And then he'd put them back in and then leave. Not even being able to be there to witness somebody taking a straw and going, this smells like gooch. Do you know what I mean? It's just, let's go.
Hey Mark and the Milky Boy to this Kieran. I love the show, big fan. I am a pilot for an airline. I've got 2 fairly quick but unhinged stories for you. Quite often we land at our destination, we might get kids want to go up to the flight deck for a picture, which is very nice and cute and wholesome. The odd time we do get an over-enthusiastic adult that wants to come in for a look, but look, some people are into that, fair enough. But one day we landed at our destination and we had a gentleman come up, and I use the term gentleman loosely, to just inform us that we landed rather quickly and too quickly by his reckoning. Because he had GPS on his phone and he could tell the speed. When I informed that we got 3 speedometers and we have multiple calculations done, he looked at me with a blank, vacant stare and then just said, "We'll agree to disagree." So that was the first mope reader. The second one was we actually landed at a destination about 45 minutes early, and we had one passenger complain that we were too early and she had to wait around for her pre-booked taxi. Some people are never, ever happy.
Do you think that's an Irish thing? Like, Irish people are just essential to our happiness has to be a side order of misery. Do you know what I mean? There has to be something negative going on in order for us to feel positive. Like, there's never, someone's telling you about their holiday. How was it? Great. Got engaged. Yeah, fabulous. Now the taxi on the way to the airport. There's always something wrong. The only time I believe Irish people as a whole are truly happy is whenever an American celebrity comes here and says anything remotely related to Ireland. Oh, Paul Rudd. Oh, look, Paul Rudd's drinking a pint of Guinness. Oh, will people relax with the Paul Rudd stuff? He seems like a nice guy. Grand. We get it. We get it. He's sound. He doesn't age. Brilliant. He ages well. He also doesn't look 23. So let's just... But are we that starved of kindness in this country that the one actor who seems like not a sex pervert is automatically sort of catapulted to unthinkable heights of martyrdom in our nation and elevated to state-leading status? Do you know what I mean? Just because he came here and drank a fucking pint. I don't really... All the radio stations come out with their perennial brain bleed banter and viral seeking slop. Oh, Paul Rudd. And there's a picture of him like in Donegal drinking a pint, and it's like honorary Irish citizen because he drinks 1 pint of Guinness and then proceeds to say sloucher in a way that resembles a post-stroke Hillary Clinton. Do you know what I mean? The jocks get damp every time an American celebrity congratulates us or even remotely acknowledges our Irishness. You go to a gig and the guy looks up and goes, oh, hey, Dublin. Oh, my God. He said it. Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam has said he likes Dublin. Ole, ole. Ole chants are practically a hymn for the fundamentally ignorant. That is just, it is the chorus of stupidity. Oh my God, Paul Rudd said he had a good time in Clare. Oh, I can't believe that. I wonder, can I be friends with him? I wonder, can I go for a few pints with him? I wonder, he'd probably get my humour. Do you know what I mean? The same sort of people who are attracted to American celebrities going to fucking Doonbeg or somewhere are the same type of people who are seduced by holiday waiters. You know? The holiday waiter who says, where are you from? Where are you from? Get on, Ireland? Rikin, Jackie Erla. Oh my God. How did Christy Moore. Do you know what I mean? Like, housing crisis. Oh my, like, how did he know that? He's like David Blaine. He's not like David Blaine. He's Googled it. He's got one for every nation. Stop falling for this. We are a country of feeble dweebs who crumble at the vague sight of a compliment, you know? We'd probably give the keys to the city to fucking Genghis Khan if he went into Grogan's for a pint of the black stuff and did an Instagram reel with Cassie Stokes. So, Genghis, when you're not enslaving millions and wiping out the Jin dynasty, where's your favourite place to grab a pint? And the comment section would be all, oh, Genghis, what a great bunch of lads. Or, Genghis, the big Irish head on him. Don't you hate that phrase? The big Irish head on him. Any American celebrity who looks slightly malformed or isn't conventionally attractive, Jesus, sure isn't there a big Irish head on him there? No, there's not. Jesus, his mum just had a few pints. No. Also, the whole lads, this collective use of the word lads needs to be removed from the Irish media. Can we just, lads, I was today years old when I realised Pedro Pascal was Irish. I don't know what that accent. Let's go. I'd say people are sick of me this morning. Onival, let's go.
Hi, Mark. I work in a garden centre, and last summer, a guy came in looking for plant ideas for an empty garden bed that he had. And I was like, okay, well, what size is the bed? And he was like, I've got a picture of the space. And he took out his phone to show me. And, you know, when you open the gallery on your phone, and it's either the last picture you've taken or it's the last picture that you've looked at. This was no garden. It was fully a POV shot of him, presumably him, in the bath with his knob out. It was leg, and in the middle, his cock and balls just floating in the foam. And he panics, he sees that I sees this, and he panics, and he's trying to scroll away, except it's just more pictures of him with his knob out in the bath, but his knob gradually getting more full-mast. And the worst thing is, he's obviously, some of the pictures he's taken with, you know, like that kind of motion burst facility where it takes a couple of pictures, makes it look like a little video. It's him just slapping his knob about occasionally to help it on its way. I don't don't want to kink shame if that's his thing. But and he made it look like a pretty cozy experience. There were like candles going up the back by the taps. So I sold him a tree fern. It's a good day.
Oh my. Okay, well, firstly, I just want to say this about candles. I encourage everybody to light a candle every single day in your house. It is the cheapest form of therapy. Just light candles. Lighting candles is the fast track to a happier life. Now, let's get into this. The bath is probably the worst place to take a picture of your willy. Would you agree? Like, in all of the scenescapes, like the bath, your willy is warm, sudsy, and pathetic in the bath. Do you know what I mean? Languishing over on your thigh like a nervous prawn with social anxiety. Like, it's just, there's nothing erotic about a dick in a bath. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you ever get when you go to, there's few contexts really when the willy is erotic, I think. You know, I was in the gym. No, I wasn't. Let's be honest. You've lost them already, Mark. That's your first lie. No, but I went to the gym about 3 years ago, and I remember going in, and you know the way you get some men who just love like the flaunting of their nude dick and balls in gyms, and they definitely do it intentionally. It's almost like look at how relaxed I am. But you know, when you see a guy, there's nothing worse than when you see the guy, but he's got the socks on, and he's nude from the waist, and he's nude aside from that. Worst I think I've ever seen though is whenever you go in and there's a guy nude, but he's got a t-shirt on, but the t-shirt's sort of hovering around the genital area, and then his willy is sort of extra dry, so the foreskin's sort of stuck to the t-shirt, and it's connecting him to his clothes like a umbilical cord. That's the worst. And yeah,
really observant in the gym, aren't you?
Those mirrors they've got are huge. But anyway, this guy in the bath, I think the most degrading and pathetic thing about this is the fact that he isn't hard, and he's taking the picture or the moving pictures of him sort of helping himself on his way. Like, that's just, there's no dignity in that. The sort of foostering around and the yanking of the appendage to get it going. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, okay, and we're going to move on from the willies now in a second, but there is no more undignifying act in the universe than a man sort of haphazardly swatting his penis in an effort to make himself erect, rolling the shaft between his thumb and forefinger like he's feeling the fabric of a coat. Do you know what I mean? Or an Italian gangster making the hand gesture for money. Hey, capiche? It's like, it's not like a full fondle. It's just a sort of like checking the temperature of the water in the jacuzzi. You know, and somebody dips their hand in like that. Or Ali G doing the booyakasha. Sort of like, anyway, yeah, perverted. Let's go. Okay, here we go, guys. Continuing on, it is part 2 of the weekly roast. Weird, rude, derangement levels of customers. I hope you're enjoying the show. It's great to be with you. 1 year in. What's next? Who knows? Let's go.
Hi, Mark. So I previously worked in a very well-known 5-star hotel in Dublin city centre as a massage therapist. I had a very weird client one morning who was extremely hungover. He told me at our consultation stage that his tummy wasn't feeling well. He was standing in his robe in front of me, and just before I left the room, he just had a cough and he shat all over the floor. Diarrhea was running down his leg and onto the treatment room floor. We had to ask him to leave for health and safety and reasons, vast other reasons, obviously. But yeah, weird clients. There you go.
I mean, blaming it on the hangover is wild. That's absolutely wild. Carry on. I mean, and then also the cough. Your issues are more serious than the cough, my friend. Do you know what I mean? Like, as somebody with asthma who also smoked for 15 years, I never shot myself. Do you know what I mean? That is absolutely, the towel dropping and then is just so visual. I keep saying this. I think our country has gone mad. No, don't worry. That's when somebody says that. Usually some very dangerous things come out of their mouth.
They're usually a taxi driver.
No, it could be anybody. I just think, look, all I'm saying is, no, I just think the country has gone mad when it comes to the way that we conduct ourselves in public. If you think, for instance, that there is a 1% chance that you might lose control of your bowels, don't go into a massage parlour where pressure is going to be put on your abdomen. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't... Just general hygiene. There is an abyss and a gulf that exists in Irish society now in terms of the way people behave in public. Like, I still have PTSD, I think, from seeing somebody during COVID, a guy who worked in a supermarket, pick his nose through his mask.
What?
Yeah, so he was wearing the mask and was just freely picking his nose. I'm like, oh, it was the worst thing I've ever seen. On the weekend, I was up in Blanche and there was a woman in the queue in front of me who kept coughing, okay? But after a particularly big cough, she'd do that thing, which is almost worse than not putting her hand to her mouth. She would just raise two fingers over her mouth, like lazily go, like she was the Pope blowing kisses to people. Do you know what I mean? Just these two fingers are doing nothing to protect the germs from that hack of yours. You've got the lungs of a Welsh coal miner in the 70s. Do you know what I mean? Or Joey's agent Estelle in France. The worst thing I've ever seen, and I'm aware, guys, of the disproportionate amount of toilet-related stories in this week's show. The worst thing that I've ever seen, I don't think I've spoken about this yet on the podcast, was last year at Electric Picnic. 2 years ago, Electric Picnic. I was in the queue for the Jacks. And obviously, the toilets at a music festival are ground zero when it comes to, you know, they're like a humanitarian black hole. Like, you know, it's... Anyway, in the queue, there was a guy, a toilet attendant there, somewhat trying to marshal, like, people leaving the stalls and all the rest. But he was using a stick, okay, to go into the cubicles after people had used it and push down the stuff that they had left in there. It gets so much worse. The same stick he was then wielding out and using it like some sort of dystopian air traffic controller to direct people, like a fucking conductor, to direct people to which queue to go. But the vigour in which he was using the stick would result in some of the shit from the stick being flicked across. And whether it was the back of a wanker's anorak or up against the rail, he just... It's the worst thing it's comfortably the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Nevertheless, let's go.
Hello. So yeah, back in the day, my part-time job was in the cinema and I was cleaning a screen. And I noticed an Eason's bag was tucked under the seat. So I just grabbed it and put it in the box of Lost and Found and didn't think about it. Later on that day, a man came up to me and asked if you left an Eason's bag in screen 11. And I said, yeah, that was me. I'll get it for you now. I wish I looked in the bag to prepare myself, but I didn't. I brought it up and I said, can I ask you what's inside? Because I just need to verify that it is yours. And he just casually said, the Bible. And I said, oh yeah, see it there. And then he said, and condoms and my spare teeth. And I wanted the world to swallow me and just disappear. I still to this day regret not checking in the bag so I could mentally prepare myself. And it still haunts me. But he was pretty casual about it.
I think he wanted something else to swallow him. Bible, condoms and spare teeth. Here's my thinking. Couple of different potential scenarios here. So, okay, the Bible would be... Okay, let me think. Okay, it could be a case of let's read something about the Corinthians, nosh off a stranger with the gums, then put back in the teeth. That would be the order. You know, read a parable, suck the person off, teeth. Okay, that would be the order. Or it could be if this person was maybe in the closet and, you know, this was a clandestine sort of, clandestine arrangement, it could be knock off stranger, clobber him with the Old Testament, okay, and then leave recently pilfered teeth from the old folks' home at the scene of the crime to plant the pensioner's DNA on the phallus, thus evading detection entirely. They'd be my sort of options.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, detective inspector.
There you go.
Vegan.
There you go. DSI on it. These days, it's impossible. Just going to the cinema in general, I think, needs to be discussed. As somebody who adores going to the movies, these days it's next to impossible to enjoy yourself there due to other people's behaviour. And I'm aware that this podcast is a mixture of just toilet stuff and me whinging, but these days it's impossible to go to a mainstream cinema without encountering the heaving, grazing, groaning, talking, phoning, coughing, spluttering, rustling cacophony of ignorance that is the noise of lots of people together in the same room. It's genuinely the worst. Teenagers, by the way, aren't the biggest culprits. So this isn't just, oh, the kids are wrong. The real culprits are people in their mid-30s and 40s who use going to the cinema as an opportunity to catch up with friends, which is just a complete oxymoron. And they're also totally incapable of not using their phone for longer than 6 or 7 minutes. Leave your phone off. Like, back in the 90s, as is evident from this, back in the 90s, all you had to worry about in the movie theatre was overhearing the occasional blowjob. You know, now it's TikToks or people, as I experienced last week in Blanche. We went to see that new film with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. Pugh? It has to be Pugh. It couldn't be Pugh. It couldn't be Pugh. Her brother Ronnie is a real nightmare. Brilliant. That's this the most childish joke. Andrew Garfield doesn't get the props he deserves for how good an actor he is. I think he and Florence is just out of this world good. But we went to see that movie, which is a complete disappointment in the end. Brilliant up until the final scene. But there's people there, like, the muttering and the chatting throughout the movie. Just get out. Don't go to the cinema. If you want to catch up with Deirdre, who you haven't seen in 6 months, go to a cafe, go to a restaurant. But then, of course, we can't go to cafes because Ireland's culture, the city, the way that the design of Dublin is, it doesn't allow for people to do anything. Anyway, that's just... We've got a lot of work to do, guys, I think. And on that depressing note, let's continue to something that's not toilet related, but that is comfortably the most depraved thing I've heard in a long time. So brace yourselves.
So when I worked in a pharmacy, this person came in with a corn peeler. So, you know, corns on your feet. This kind of blade thing that peels them for you. So they came in and I was only minimum wage working in the front. And they were like, oh, the pharmacist said that I could just bring this back in and buy new blades and you'd replace them for me. And I looked down at the piece of equipment and I was like, that has been very well used. So I was like, and I looked around and the pharmacist wasn't doing anything. And I went, this is above my pay grade. And I was like, well, actually they're free up there now if you want to go on up. So they marched up with the corn peeler in their hand. I was like, you said you'd replace this for me, the blade in it for me. And I watched as they pulled the blade out of the, it's on like a plastic handle thing. They pulled the blade out and all of this dead skin and build up and everything just fell straight onto the counter. Ugh, disgusting. I swiftly turned green, ran into the back and hid.
No, that's actually too disgusting. Can we just go to the can we just go to the next one? I don't even want to say anything on that. That is Doron. That is Kieran. Hopefully not for the last time, but certainly for the first time today. Hold on to your lips. Wrap them around my tits. That is Derange Mon levels. Let's go.
Hey Mark, new to the podcast and I absolutely love it. Loving this week's roast. Yes, I remember vividly going to the supermarket during lockdown with my 2-year-old and yeah, it was a bit of escapism for all of us, but yeah, adhering to the 2-metre rule. And I just remember getting to the till and trying to pay and this old dear was behind me. I'm trying to put an age on her, probably in her 80s. Yeah. And yeah, she felt I was within her 2-metre distance, so she just shouted the word and pointed at me, cunt.
Love it. Just straight to the point, isn't it? I COVID was a weird time, and I actually do think. Does anybody else think like this? I will, and I'm wondering, is it because obviously I stopped drinking in October 21, and COVID like was the thing that really just I'd nowhere to hide, you know, with my drinking once COVID started. But for anybody else, like I will always, for the rest of my life, view life as like pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Yeah.
Do you?
Oh yeah.
Like everything was different. Life felt very like we were all so unbelievably naive. And I mean, even after like all the jokes about hygiene and stuff, you look around these days and you realize why COVID spread the way that it did. And we've learned nothing. Like we wonder how history repeats itself with like more serious atrocities in the world. And this is why, because we don't learn. We do not learn from our mistakes. But COVID brought out a particular type of crazy. It was also like, do you remember, you know, people used to always wonder about like the War of Independence and the way it divided like families and brothers and cousins turning against each other. And you go, oh, but how? COVID was the perfect example. COVID was the real insight into just how precarious this whole idea of society is. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one that had like very serious disputes around dinner tables with those who you thought you knew the most and their position on something. Yeah. Anyway, lest I start thinking that I'm better than just being a funny boy, we'll continue on with this. I find the mum or the old woman hilarious. I also just love those people who just not even mincing their words. You know, people that just say it how it is. I speak about this a little bit in my book, but don't you hate when you know those people? Excuse me, I'm sort of stumbling and sloppering here. People who say, "Oh, I just say it how it is." It's never about the good stuff, though, is it? It's never like, oh, Kieran, you look fantastic. It's always like, yeah, well, look, I'm just going to say this to you now because they are always assholes. It's never about the good stuff. It's like, look, I'm just one of those people who calls it how I see it. You're a dickhead. Because they say it as if like all of us would be incapable of doing that. Do you know what I mean? As if they're so courageous and brave and they're such bastions of the truth that they just have to always be, they always point out your flaws. And that's just because, look, other people will bullshit you. I won't. They're so arrogant. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing good about these people. Nada, niente, zilch, ein rud, rien. Mind your own business to that old woman in the queue. People need to mind their own business more in this day and age.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, right there with you.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a collective lack of people minding their own business. And it's one of the reasons, and I promise you this is definitely the most sanctimonious voice note in the show today. So I won't go on much further with it. But it's why I don't take online activism seriously for the most part. People on social media are more preoccupied with telling other people how they're not doing as much as them rather than focusing on the actual cause that they're originally supposed to be talking about. Do you know what I mean? So like after a few weeks of the event or the thing that happens that they want to sort of talk about, they were originally posting about that, but now they're just taking upon themselves to police the way that everybody else uses the internet and to make sanctimonious comments about how little you're doing. Oh, you're not doing anything. I see you. Like, I don't need to be lectured on morality from a recreational moron who gets their news in video form on TikTok. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to, and I can't even begin talking about this because we'd be here all day, but it is just remarkable how many people are using global tragedies, okay, and conflicts as an exercise of vanity just to make it all about themselves. And that's all it is, by the way. Let's call it for what it is. 70% of the online activism you see is about the person posting and pointing fingers and look at how fucking good I am. It's not about the thing. They've forgotten about the thing. They don't even care about that anymore. They just become obsessed. And then there's the feedback loop because they get positive messages from some people about it. So they're bolstered on to keep doing more of it. It is, in no uncertain terms, my boy, derangement. But this is a comedy podcast, so let's go.
So I used to work on a customer service desk in a pretty well-known shopping centre. And so I look Asian, but I obviously don't sound Asian. And a lady came up to the customer service desk looking to get her phone unlocked or whatever. So I directed her to Vodafone 3 and whatever her network provider was. There's even a phone repair shop. And I directed her there. but none of those shops could help her out. And she goes, "Oh, well, you're Oriental. Maybe you could do it." And I was just shocked. So I was just like, "Oh, no, I can't help you. Sorry."
Kieran, could you play that one again in English, please? I don't speak Mandarin. No, you can't. That is absolutely outrageous. Carry on. I mean, outrageous. Carry on. That's like, in terms of stereotypes, that's like assuming Irish people are alcoholics, or that comedians are all prone to misery. Nevertheless, like, I can't get over that. I am actually speechless with dismay. How did she think that interaction was going to go? Hello, mate. Yeah, listen, you wouldn't mind just fixing that phone for me there, would you? Sorry, no, this is the customer service desk. So, yeah, you can go over to the phone shops. No, but you're Oriental. Oh, sorry. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you can't. That is absolutely outrageous. And I mean, by the way, like, how did she actually think that was going to go? Yeah, no worries. Yeah, of course. Thank you. I'm glad you noticed from looking at me that I appear to be Asian. Thus, I'm automatically a phone fixing aficionado. Hand me over the 3210. By the way, do you want me to give your son maths grinds at the same time? Like, in terms of stereotypes, this is towering levels of ignorance. Oh, mate, actually, while I have you, any idea why the Red Dragon closed down on the Long Mile Road? I used to love their yuck. Sorry, the Red Dragon. I don't follow. Well, it's Chinese, and you're Chinese. Firstly, I'm not Chinese. Just because I look Chinese doesn't mean that I'm Chinese. This is... Also, yes, I know why they closed. Some lad had a bad yuck, so he went into H&M and he got a hoodie off the rack. You know, this is... He goes by the name of X-Megan. I cannot believe this. Now, even if we just for a second set aside the abject racism of this event, okay, it's also the entitlement. The entitlement is just as bad as the racism, because she's gone, yeah, listen, I don't care that you've given me this, like, you've given me the suggestions on where I can go to do this business. She's just gone up with somebody, Asian or otherwise, at a customer service desk and gone, fix my phone there. I don't care, just fix my phone. So we'll do it, just sort it out. Yeah. That's probably the worst one we've had in the show. Outrageous. Do you think I'll get in trouble for the sorry thing? Okay, my friends, here we are. It's the final furlong. It's the final countdown. Our final section of the show with our beloved Milky Boy Kieran. If you enjoyed the podcast, do me a favour and send me a message on Instagram at @MeganMark. If you have any suggestions on what you'd like to be roasted next, send me a message at @MeganMark. If it's you or your friend's birthday or a loved one's special occasion coming up soon and you want a personalised roast in video form or podcast, patreon.com/Mark Megan. That's where that all happens. It's like Cameo, basically. Nevertheless, let's get into it.
Well, Mark, absolutely love the podcast. Yeah, so my interest in customer interaction was a couple of years ago when I worked in Tesco, and I had this customer come into me one of the days while I was packing the shelves, and she asked me to butcher some meat for her. And I said, yeah, no problem, you can go over to the deli there and pick out your meat. And she's like, no, I have my own meat here in the bag. And she proceeds to open up her bag and show me, and it was a dead seagull.
No.
And obviously I was like, we are not butchering that. You should not be bringing that anywhere near the shop. And she's like, oh, I just found it there dead lying on the side of the road. Thought you'd be able to cut it up and sort it for me. And I obviously refused. She continued to get annoyed at the fact we wouldn't follow what the customer was looking for. She asked to speak to the manager, so I said, yeah, I'll get a manager now. I didn't tell him what it was, just that a customer was looking for him to see his reaction. And showed the manager, and the manager absolutely lost it at her. Said it'd have all sorts of diseases, and what the hell you didn't bring that in here. And she continued to get more and more annoyed. This went on for about 10 minutes until the point we were like, right, let's just send it to the butchers down the road, let them deal with it. So we told her where to go and that they'd be able to sort it, but absolutely mental.
I mean, initially when he said this, I was like, this can't be true. A handbag full of seagull. It's also, and I mean, I'm reluctant to get into this considering the previous voice note. It feels like the origin story of every rumor about the local bad Chinese. There's a rumor about there's always one Chinese restaurant in every town where we're like, yeah, apparently they actually serve seagull meat. They don't serve seagull meat. As if that would be easier than getting a cheaper cut of chicken. Going out with a box and some string and trying to lure seagulls, famously belligerent birds, by the way. Do you know what I mean? Trying to lure a seagull into a cardboard box, slapping it on the barbecue and basting it with some MSG and soy sauce. Like, do you know what I mean? It didn't happen. Nobody is serving seagull meat. I wonder what it would taste like. Would it be fishy?
I'd say it's gamey.
Here's one for you. Guess why 99% of seagulls die?
How?
Starvation.
What?
Do you know why? Because they go blind from the way that they dive into the sea to get the fish. They damage their retinas and they end up starving. They can't hunt, and that's the end. And that's the game. And then they end up as number 45 in the Mandarin Castle. They don't, by the way. They unequivocally do not. That never happens. It's an urban myth that deserves to be completely debunked. Like the 2-story bed I used to have when it fell down. That is so bad. Jesus Christ. Nevertheless, yeah, bananas. I also, just on the subject of Chinese, have you ever noticed, like, in every town there's like a good Chinese and a bad Chinese? But the good Chinese is just the one that your family have always went to. Oh yeah, don't go to the Emerald Castle. No, Jesus, no, that's the shocking place. No, you need to go to Wong, the other place. Shocking. Well, they've been open for 30 years, so they can't be doing that badly. Like, people just like what they like. I like the next voice note, please.
So, probably the rudest / most disgusting customer I've ever had the misfortune of coming into contact with was when I was working in a well-known Irish supermarket. And we only really found out what happened when staff went back through the CCTV. But basically, this woman came in to do her shopping. Older woman was going down through the frozen food aisle, and there was nobody else in the aisle. That's grand. She was shopping away or whatever, and she stops in the middle of the aisle and looks over her shoulders just to make sure that there was nobody around. And when she knew that she was on her own, she lifted up her right leg. She was wearing trousers, by the way. Lifted up her right leg, gave it a bit of a shake, and something dropped out of the leg of her trousers.
No.
She continues on shopping. Doesn't look back. Doesn't stop or anything like that. Just continues on. It was only when the staff were walking down the aisle they realised that it was a poo.
No.
She had taken a dump in the frozen food aisle and left it there. Keep in mind, the bathrooms are only about an aisle away. She easily could have made her way to the bathroom. Also, she's wearing trousers. I don't understand the mechanics of that. If she was left, if she was caught short or anything, I have no idea. But watching it back on the CCTV, like, that alone was madness to watch. But then we got to see, like, a member of staff come across the poo.
No.
And then 2 minutes later, like, the entire shop is down the frozen food aisle looking at this poo in the aisle. It was just absolutely off the wall. Fair play to the manager. Took one for the team and cleaned it up. Didn't put it on the staff, so that was fair play to her. But I'm nearly certain the store manager had to have a conversation with this lady the next time she came in and kind of politely said, "You're not allowed to be here anymore." And then the whole story kind of caught legs, and apparently she had been known for doing this in other shops around Blanchestown. So, yeah, like that probably has to be the worst.
Yeah, like, that is the worst. I think, okay, before we get into this woman, I think we should talk about society on the whole here. The fact that on the whole, brilliant. But like, one person discovers the poo, and then within 5 minutes, there's a crowd of shoppers and onlookers all surrounding the poo. And then what? Like local news comes down and interviews the poo. Do you know what I mean? It gets a slot on expose because the poo wears shoes with no socks. Do you know what I mean? The poo is all of a sudden elevated to famous heights, becomes a star, does movies with Barry Keoghan, and then comes back to Ireland, gets a picture of him having a pint around Christmas, a big pint of the brown stuff, and everyone's going, we love the poo. Big Irish head on him. Do you know what I mean? We're all just lemmings. We are all just a thick species that will eradicate ourselves off the face of this planet one day. Nevertheless, if you're doing a poo in a shopping centre out of your trousers, wear flares. Don't be wearing the elasticated leggings. Do you know what I mean? Don't be rocking the Lululemons or the Sweaty Betty, Shitty Potty. Don't. This is derangement levels of, if the woman is doing this in several different shops, yes, that's psychopath territory. That's when you're wading into Joe Exotic levels of crossing the point of no return. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing that behaviour, and doing this weird, sordid hokey pokey where you're shaking your right leg, waiting for a fucking log to fall out of it, that's when you need to be bundled into the back of a windowless van and dropped off outside the main entrance to Dundrum. The mental hospital, by the way, not the shopping centre, because we only know she'd bloody love that.
Hi, Mark. She actually was vegan. So basically, I was managing a restaurant and it was a busy lunch period, and this lady came in and ordered a wrap with falafel for takeaway. 20 minutes later, she stormed back in screaming. Turns out we'd accidentally given her a wrap of chicken instead of falafel. Honest mistake, shit happens. Apologised, offered a refund, the works and so on, but she wasn't having any of it. Demanded the CCTV footage. We obviously advised we can't just give her the footage. And we had already admitted our mistake. We weren't trying to hide anything, so I'm not sure what our angle was there. So she just started ranting and raving how she was a vegan for 10 years and was completely traumatised. And that she was going to go to the guards. So stormed off. 15 minutes later, came back and said she went to the local guard station around the corner and they were unwilling to help. Unsurprisingly, and she'd take the refund, and this wasn't over. So that's the last we'd heard from her. It was the last we heard from her. Never heard another word. I wouldn't mind, but the type of falafel wrap she actually ordered had ranch and cheese on it. But thought it best not to bring that up. But yeah, that's the story. It was a good few years ago now.
Anybody that says this isn't over is usually what they say when it's definitely over. Do you know what I mean? This isn't the last you've heard of me on the X Factor. I hate to break it to you, Jezza from East Doncaster. This is the last we'll ever hear of you. Do you know what I mean? I know that you've just done a rousing version or nails on the blackboard edit of Buffalo Soldier, but yeah, goodbye. This ain't over. It's just such a ridiculous saying. Do you know what? Actually, sorry, this is complete. Do you know what really winds me up? People our age who refer to themselves as old souls. Why is it that people who call themselves old souls are unable to pronounce the word bellend? Do you know what I mean? Referring to yourself as an old soul is just a way of trying to tell people that you deem yourself to be more mature than many. Do you know what I mean? What does old soul even mean? You're moderately racist? Do you use scented toilet paper, or do you get to carry a bus pass? Do you know what I mean? You're a fan of gardening and ask for a 3 back and sides with blue rinse in the fridge when you get your hair cut. It's just you receive a disproportionate amount of pleasure from watching the work of Bradley Walsh. It doesn't mean anything other than I think I'm better than people. Yeah, I guess I'm just an old soul. I guess you're just an asshole. It's like when people comment I was born in the wrong generation under a black and white photo of some cool looking London guys in the 1950s. You just want the haircut and the leather jacket. You don't want the TB. Do you know what I mean? You don't want the absolute economic sinkhole. Every generation was lacking in some shape or form. You're just looking at the cooler part. Oh God, old soul doesn't mean what you think it means. It's like whenever, do you remember that era in 2008 when everybody on Tinder called themselves gin connoisseurs? It just meant single. Or when South Dublin lads used to quote Anchorman on their Facebook pages because they thought it made them cool. Like, this is literally the opposite of an aphrodisiac. This is a libido suppressant. Keith here from UCD studying commerce, and his bio on Facebook says, San Diego, whale's vagina. Brilliant. He's definitely someone should shack up with for the next 6 decades and produce a few overconfident spuds with. Nevertheless, actually no, not the worst trend of all time. Do you know what the worst trend of all time is? I remember one time I got a text in like 2014 from a mate of mine going, do you want to go up to Dundrum and go planking? I remember thinking, this is the worst era of my life. Planking that was the worst. And that's coming from somebody who accidentally burned an Avril Lavigne album over the only CD of his grandfather's eulogy. So, let's go.
So I was working in a bar a good few years ago now, and I was bringing a pint over to an L fella, and he thought it would be appropriate to lick my hand as I handed him the pint. And then he says, "You're lovely." Lovely. Just great.
That is just... Oh, don't worry about that there, though. That's just me saying you're lovely. Don't be worried. Like he's talking about a dog that he has no control over, you know. I don't mind him. Don't mind the dog. The dog's... Oh, don't be worried about that there, no. No, don't be worried about that at all. That's just me saying you're lovely there, yeah. Don't be worried about that tongue there now. I get a bit slippery after a few babies. And when I get in the shorts, I get red hot altogether. Don't be worried about that now. That was just a bit of a lick there. Nothing to be scared about there. I just wanted to get the scent of you in my mouth there. I'll go lower the next time if you want, all the way down there to the moisture. Are you wet yourself? There's a €2. Now, there's a €2 coin in it for yourself afterwards if you fancy that sort of thing. A bit of licking, a bit of playing. Would you have any interest in touching himself, the wrinkly fella down below there? This is the old fella in a pub equivalent of kissing a Victorian lady's paw. Do you know what I mean? Just licking the bar woman's hand. How do people get away with this sort of disturbing behaviour? Like, was the hand going by his face and did he just take his chances? Or did he bow down and in an almost act of reverence in order to slurp her knuckles? Nevertheless, that's all we have time for today. Goodbye, good boy. Our milky boy is gone. We love you. We'll leave you with this, Kieran. You're the best. We'll see you on the other side. Take care.
Mark, I have a good one for you on the old rude/weird customers. I used to work in an off licence for years in a real salted earth part of Dublin. And I had this old lad, he was a regular user of our services. Real lad about town, everyone knew him, he thought he was funny. One of these melters. But anyway, he'd regularly break off one of a 4-pack of Guinness and put it into his pocket. Then he'd play senile, he'd hurry everything along as if we were all stupid. But I gave up the fight anyway, it wasn't my Guinness. So I used to entertain him. But he had a slip, trip and fall one day on the way back from the pub in the same centre that we worked in. And he had a claim in against the centre management. So he was going around with this crutch that he didn't actually need for a few weeks as a charade into the claim. And I knew that he didn't need a crutch because when he used to come into my shop, he'd leave the crutch at the counter while he was getting his cans and his wine. So I decided one day I'd try and get the revenge on him. So he put the crutch up against the counter. So I grabbed it and I lowered it 4 clicks to a point where the crutch didn't really work anymore. So he came along and he bought his cans and I watched as he left, leaning over to the side, like the leaning tower of Pisa. But I was crying, laughing, and I was shouting at him, there's nothing wrong with him. So the charade of the crutch was gone after he left outside because security were all watching him using this crutch that was probably 2 foot too short.
Thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episodes. I hope you will join me in wishing Kieran, bidding him adieu and wishing him an exciting new chapter in his life. Thank you, as I say, for listening to the show. Here we are, 1 year on. What an unbelievable year it's been, and we're only just beginning. There's lots happening and lots coming up, and I can't wait, to share it with you all when the time is right. But listen, in the interim, if you enjoy listening to the show, it would mean the world to us if you could subscribe to it wherever you listen to it. It just really helps us in the old algorithm and all the rest. Recommend the show to a friend of yours. And of course, check me out on Instagram at Megan Mark. If you have any suggestions as to what you'd like to be roasted, send me a DM on Instagram. And of course, if you want personalised roasts for yourself or your family as birthday presents, what have you, congratulations, presents. I can do videos and podcasts. That all happens on Patreon, patreon.com/Mark Megan. Also, every single week, there's a brand new article and or bonus podcast there for your taking. So, wish you all the best, and I'll see you next week. Take care.